Hi there, and welcome to Shut Up, How to Smash Your Quota by Becoming a Better Listener. My name is Liston Witherill, and I'm a sales behaviorist who helps people like you ask questions with a purpose so you can sell more services. And today, I'm imploring you to shut up. I'll prove to you why talking too much is costing you big numbers of sales, share with you how to become a better listener, and give you specific, actionable tips you can take today to listen like a top 1% seller. Let's get into it. What do these people have in common? Well, they're all in sales. They all love what they do. They all work really hard every single day. But statistically, one is a top salesperson, two are average, and one just probably doesn't even belong in sales. And also, one is a great listener and the rest are not, which means the rest of us could use some work. See, there's a plague out there and it's claiming millions of victims. It's called loudmouth syndrome. And in case you're wondering, yes, I sometimes suffer from it too, but luckily I am in recovery. Here's what it's causing: lost deals, underperformance, and even lost careers. I recently had a software demo with a rep, and you can probably relate to this experience. Let's call this guy Devin just to protect the identity of the innocent. I gave Devin a very specific list of specifications. See, I like writing long Google Docs, so it was Devin's lucky day. He promised we'd cover everything in the Google Doc. When we got on the phone, he asked me a few questions, then he proceeded to respond to exactly none of my needs. He just gave me the canned pitch. There was no point in him asking questions of me at all, and no point in me providing him with any of the agenda items that I did. He asked for them, but he didn't use them. He wasn't paying attention when I talked. He was just kind of waiting to respond, and I felt like I was banging my head against the wall. He asked me questions, I answered, I still got the canned pitch. I'm getting a headache just thinking about this. It turns out that I'm not the only buyer who feels this way. This chart is from a study done by Gong.io, maybe you've seen it. And what we can see here on the left is that listening and talking time of closers as a percentage of the total time they spent in conversation. The darker section is how long they spent, quote, pitching or talking. The lighter section is how much they spend listening. What's clear is that those top performers, they listen a lot more than the average and underperforming counterparts. Now, if we turn to the bottom 20% of salespeople in the study, you can see they're talking almost twice as much. What I'm going to focus on in this presentation is that big difference. Why listening is so important, the keys to being a great listener, and 3 very specific exercises you can do today, as in like today, right after you finish watching this video, to become a better listener. And it's not just me saying this, it's lots of your buyers out there in the market too. According to the buyers in this HubSpot study, there were 3 big things they wanted from their sales experience. 1, they wanted to feel like they were being listened to, like the seller was listening to their needs. 2, they wanted the salesperson not to be pushy. And 3, they wanted to receive relevant information from the seller. So we know what buyers want, and yet the vast majority of us, as we already saw, aren't listening enough. So what gives? Well, sometimes we're a little selfish. We're making it all about us and not enough about the buyer. It's almost as if, yeah, we know better, but we can't help ourselves. The reasons why we're not listening better are pretty clear. We feel pressured to pitch and, quote, make it good, and we have a lot to say in a very limited amount of time. We want to make sure we squeeze in every possible aspect of what we're selling. And let's face it, when we're talking, we feel like we're in control, but it's just an illusion, my friend. And we want to be liked so badly, so we keep talking rather than listening. The truth is, we can't talk anyone into submission. We're the ones under pressure. So we feel nervous, or worse yet, lazy, so we can just give a canned pitch that bulldozes our prospects and shows them that, number 1, we're not paying attention to what they think or say, and number 2, we're just not that interested. Why should they continue to have a respectful, two-way communication with us? There's no reason for it, of course. they know it, and we know it. Now, there's nothing wrong with talking. In fact, you're not going to sell much if you stonewall the other person with the silent treatment. I mean, you can't very well mime a value discussion. It's all about finding the right balance between listening and talking. If you listen more, you will be forced to ask better, more powerful questions. The information you get from those questions will help you formulate, yes, you guessed it, a better sales story that you can tell your prospects when the time comes. And when you listen and actually care about what the other person is saying, yes, you have to care, you'll get their undivided attention when you do speak. There are other people here at the Sales Hacker Summit talking about personalization and sales decks that don't suck, like my friend Raj Nathan, or customizing your prospecting, like my friend Jason Bay. Do check out their talks if you haven't already. There's good news and bad news. Yes, you should be personalizing. Yes, you should be in a consultative position, but the only way you can do that is to listen and to do it well. So what makes a good listener anyway? Now, I hate traffic as much as anyone. In fact, I hate traffic a lot more than most people. I grew up in Los Angeles, home to the worst traffic in the entire world, and I left LA, I left my friends, I left my family to escape the traffic. I really do hate traffic. But even as much as I hate traffic, I know that we have to follow the rules of the road, otherwise we collide into other cars. Conversation is exactly the same way. Rule number 1 of becoming a superstar listener is to wait your turn. It's like the golden rule of communication. Only one person can talk at a time in a communication. Otherwise, you're not communicating, you're shouting. Don't talk when others are talking. Resist the urge to interrupt. There are 2 reasons to communicate. 1, to understand, right? This is the listening part. And 2 is to be liked. And that's the talking part. And we often interrupt or interject or change the subject because we want to be liked or we care about what we care about, not what the other person cares about. Now, I got to warn you, if you're a high energy extrovert, this is going to be a tough one for you. And if you have a high need for approval, this is also going to be a difficult one for you too. But you have to resist the urge to interrupt because to listen well, you really have to wait your turn. Rule number 2, show that you're listening. Making eye contact is kind of like the currency to show that you're listening. I mean, look at the eye contact this woman in the picture is making, her hands clasped together at her mouth. She is clearly paying attention. Just try having a conversation with someone and don't look at them at all. See how long it takes for them to get visibly flustered. It will not be long. Special note here, if you do a lot of online meetings like I do, eye contact is a little bit of a funny thing. In order to give the impression that you're making eye contact with the person, you can't actually look at your screen. You have to look directly into the camera. So practice that because it will give the other person a deeper sense of connection with you. Now, it's not just about eye contact because we don't want those laser eyes. There's also body language, nodding, using facial expressions, or verbal cues like giving verbal confirmation that tells the other person that you're paying attention and that they should keep talking. Now, of course, this can go too far.
Okay, you need to stop that.
Okay, doing what?
You need to stop checking in with me so much saying yeah. You need to stop saying yeah.
What do you mean?
It seems like you're not listening and that you're just focusing on saying yeah
no,
and
that
got
makes
it
sense.
and everything. Like you took some kind of active listening class, but you're not actually paying attention.
Totally. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Then why did you disagree with me a million times while I said it?
Okay, yeah.
So check in occasionally, but don't be that guy, right? You can demonstrate that you're listening by multiple means rather than just verbal confirmations. However you do it, it's just really important that you do show that you're listening. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3, ask for more. My wife and I went to buy a car stereo for her car. That's not a real picture of us, by the way. We walk into the store and we started talking to the guy at the counter. He was asking us a little bit about what brought us in, all the kind of normal questions. We told him what we wanted, something simple, inexpensive. It had to have a Bluetooth speaker and Bluetooth connectivity like all modern stereos do. But it also needed a CD player because she still likes to listen to CDs. Side note, if you don't know what a CD is, it's this thing. It holds music, a whole 80 minutes of it if you're lucky, but that's beside the point. We asked the guy whether we should consider upgrading my wife's speakers in addition to the stereo unit, and if so, which speakers should we look at? He paused for a second and asked, "What kind of music do you listen to?" Now, he could have asked us about how loud we like to listen and told us about ohms and impedance and decibels, and he could have gone through a big feature list, but this one single question was all he needed to figure out what to sell us. And that, my friend, is a good story of why we have to ask for more. Because very few people will tell you everything they know or everything that you need to know right away. You'll have to ask for more and then listen. And the best way to do that in a consultation is to repeat a phrase or opening that the other person left you. So if you're selling, say, sales engagement software, thanks for having me, Outreach, and you ask your prospect what they plan to use it for, they may say something like, to fill the pipeline faster. The way you'll follow up to draw more information out of them is just to repeat that key phrase. Fill the pipeline faster? They'll respond, and you'll be in a position to collect even more information from them. So that's rule number 3, always ask for more. Rule number 4 is get confirmation. Being able to repeat what others have said practically word for word and then seeking confirmation is a critical skill. And the reason is communication is only effective if we actually understand each other. Now, you don't have to repeat what the person says verbatim. In fact, I think it's really good to paraphrase because paraphrasing shows that you're really internalizing what the other person is saying. Now, in order to do this well, you can't fake it, unfortunately. You'll actually have to listen to the other person. And as an option, take notes. This really depends on you. I like to take notes because it helps me solidify what the other person is saying in my mind. My feeble little brain can't hold it all, but it depends on your comfort level. Some people have a hard time staying present in the conversation while they're taking notes. I type pretty fast. I can generate several pages of notes in a single conversation. Maybe a pen and paper is better for you. Totally up to you. But here's my template for getting confirmation. First thing I do is I ask for permission. I'm asking for permission to summarize what they've told me so I'm sure I understand correctly. And they're sure that I understand it correctly too, right? So I would say something like, is it okay if I just repeat what I heard and you can tell me if I'm getting it or not? And of course they'll say yes. Then I give them the summary. I repeat back what I've heard and what I've understood. And then I ask them to confirm. I ask them to tell me, did I get it right or not? Or is there something that needs correction, something that needs to be added or removed or whatever? The point here is for us to be in sync. So that's rule number 4, get confirmation. Rule number 5, reveal insights. Good listeners interpret what the other person is saying, they challenge it, and they reveal insights and alternatives that the other person hadn't considered yet. When you do this consistently, you will have a black belt in listening. In this HBR article, the authors position 6 different levels of being a good listener. Here's a quote from the article of what it means to be a level 6 listener. By the way, the emphasis added here is my own. The listener asks questions that clarify assumptions the other person holds and helps the other person to see the issue in a new light. This could include the listener interjecting some thoughts and ideas about the topic that could be useful to the other person. However, good listeners never hijack the conversation so that they or their issues become the subject of the discussion. Translation: a level 6 listener can not only understand, but respond with relevance and even challenge the thinking of the other person. This is the key to consultative selling, as you probably know, and providing a valuable consultation and valuable insights along the way is how to be successful in sales. Just to quickly recap that list, here's how to become a superstar listener. Number 1, wait your turn. Number 2, show that you're listening. Number 3, ask for more. Number 4, always get confirmation. And number 5, reveal insights. Now I'm going to give you 3 ideas and exercises that you can use to put some of this into action today. And again, I'm going to repeat today, as in like, stop this video and try one of these things today, because it is that valuable. It won't only make you better in sales, it will make you a better, more effective person, a better friend, a better son, a better daughter, a better parent if you're a parent. Effective listening will improve just about every aspect of your life. So here are the actions you can take to be a better listener. The first challenge is repeat and confirm. Now, I think that overall, this is the best place to focus if you really want to get better at listening, which is not coincidentally why I made it the number one thing here. Whenever you're speaking with your clients, in discovery, while you're pitching, during negotiation, whatever, one tactic you can use is to repeat and confirm what they said. Typically, the way you'll do this is by starting out a phrase like, "What I hear you saying is," or you can be ultra direct and say something like, "I'm going to repeat what you just said just to make sure I'm understanding correctly." Now, if you can start to hone this skill, you'll be well on your way to becoming a level 6 black belt listener. I'll give you an example. If your client says this, "Look, Q4, it's been a mess for us. We need a way to figure out what's happening in our sales conversations so we can figure out what's working, who's the most successful, and pull out the key insights that'll help us get the rest of the team on board." For the repeat and confirm exercise, you would say something like this. "Ah, I see. So you want to figure out why some conversations are successful and others aren't. Then apply what you learned by training your team to close more deals. Did I get that right?" And of course, at this point, we're going to pause and let them talk. "Yep, that's right," is probably what they'll say. So that's exercise number 1, repeat and confirm. We want to summarize what we heard, paraphrase it, and ask the person to confirm whether or not we're understanding them correctly. Listening challenge number 2, record and analyze. Now, you may already do this, but I really encourage you to record and play back one of your sales calls. Just one. It doesn't have to be all of them. Just one is fine. Look for how much you're talking versus listening. Now, you can, of course, use a tool like gong.io to automatically figure this out, which I encourage you to do if you have it. But whatever way you go about it, just look for the missed opportunities to ask follow-up questions in particular. That's the main thing I want you to do. I have a whole checklist that I put together to help you assess your listening skills. You can grab it on this page as part of this talk. It's there for you to download now. But I want to go back to the last example and just show you how I would analyze that. So in that example, our client said, "Look, Q4 has been a mess for us. We need a way to figure out what's happening in our sales conversation so we can figure out what's working, who's the most successful, and pull out the key insights that'll help us get the rest of the team on board." Okay, great. So that's what they said. Now, when I analyze this, the main things I'm seeing in this particular statement are Q4 is a mess, sales conversations, individual performance, establish best practices, train, and onboard. Notice the keyword individual performance. The client doesn't actually say that. I'm inferring it based on this phrase, "who's the most successful," right? They want to know who's doing well and who's not, which really is an individual performance assessment. But I basically have 5 big key phrases here that the client has covered. And in the original exercise, the repeat and confirm challenge, my response was to recount what the client said here. Now, that's not wrong, but upon further analysis, I'd like to focus on that first phrase and learn a little bit more about it. Q4 is a mess. That's really loaded, right? That's loaded with pain. That's loaded with strife. That's loaded with internal problems. It's loaded with all kinds of things. And so my analysis here is that I did a good job on repeat and confirm, but I just did it a little too soon. I missed the opportunity to ask this question. Q4 is a mess? What do you make of that? Remember that one of the rules is to always ask for more. And in this case, I missed an opportunity to do that where there was an opening. So that is the second challenge. Record and analyze one of your sales calls. Challenge number 3 is to talk to a stranger. Now, I'm sure, like, if you're in sales, you're probably already comfortable talking with strangers, or at least you fake it enough. But that's not the exercise. It's not just to talk to a stranger. It's to try to get through the entire conversation without talking about yourself at all the entire time. The way you'll do that is by asking great questions. And the way you can ask great questions is simply by asking about the things they've already told you. Easy entry points, of course, are always where you live, the weather, the traffic, the local sports team, whatever you feel comfortable with. There's lots of things that we all have in common, especially geographically. And what's the ideal place to do this? When you have a captive audience. That's when people are going to talk to you, right? At the coffee shop, in line for food, or at the grocery store. Or my favorite, while you're taking a Lyft or an Uber somewhere, talk to your driver rather than being on your phone or the computer the whole time like this woman in the picture. I guarantee you'll meet some interesting people. Not all of them will be interesting, but some of them will be. I can't even begin to tell you how many cannabis entrepreneurs I've met in my travels. And when you talk to strangers with the goal of just asking them questions, you're going to quickly see how hard it is for you not to turn the conversation back to yourself, how hard it is not to change the subject, and how long it takes you to do it. So that is listening challenge number 3, talk to a stranger. And now let us wrap up. Here are the key takeaways. The difference between top 1% salespeople and everyone else is that they're better listeners. Not listening well means you'll give a canned pitch that misses the mark for your client and you lose the deal. And to become a better listener, stop interrupting, start showing the other person that you're paying attention, and ask targeted follow-up questions and seek confirmation that you're understanding correctly. And ultimately, you want to reveal insights by asking probing questions that are relevant to the conversation and to the person you're talking to, that challenge their way of thinking. And finally, you gotta practice. Go through the exercises and you'll immediately identify opportunities for improvement. Thanks so much for watching this talk, and I would love to connect with you. I have 3 ways that we can connect. Number 1, check out the Modern Sales Podcast, where I cover the psychology and behavioral science of buyers and sellers with a new episode every single Wednesday. You can go to modernsalespodcast.com to find it. If you like this training, I have a quick download that'll show you the 6 most powerful questions you can ask to double your wins. Just head over to servedon'tsell.com/sh-summit. That's SH as in sales hacker. And of course, you can hunt me down on the web at any time. Go to my website, email me directly for any reason at all, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.